Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Craig Cairns and I'm joined by, as usual, the editor of Hearts Standard, Joe Sked. How are you doing, Joe, this fine frosty January?
Yeah, not too bad. Just been out to the shops, and my goodness, it is cold. It is cold.
It definitely is. I tell you what's not been cold, Joe, and that's Hearts' transfer business so far. They've been quick out the blocks. Already added two. It looks like there could be more on the way. There's also been some departures, mainly and some news of some more possibly imminent departures or soon to be departures. We'll get to all that in a wee bit. I suppose, as usual, we should kick off by saying that today's video is brought to you by Good Vibes Giveaways. They are proud to sponsor Heart Standard and offer fantastic prizes to fans of the club. Prizes change weekly. They include tech, gadgets, days out, weekends away, tax-free cash, and even OASIS tickets. Get your tickets now at www.goodvibesgiveaways.com and enter for your chance to spread the good vibes. Always gets me, that start of the URL. Always gets me. Right, so as I said, Joe, we're going to sort of zip through the transfer latest, as it says on the tin. And the big news, I suppose, is that it looks like Liam Boyce is going to be one, if not the next player to leave Hearts and return home to Northern Ireland with Derry City. It's a bit of a strange one. We'll kind of unpack it a wee bit. I think, as you kind of put it earlier, if this had been a few weeks ago, nobody would have batted an eyelid. He's come into the team, performed well, as have the team as a whole, for most of the previous three matches. And there's been one other striker brought in that was needed to be added. It's not as if there's space to let someone go. Space is the wrong word, but it's not. Ideally, for depth-wise, would be keeping. But at the same time, even though Boyce has kind of played quite well, I just think that I don't think he's been great or groundbreaking, and I think that this it makes sense longer term, regardless of the sort of optics of when it's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, you rewind a couple, even just rewind probably less than 2 weeks, and fans, I think, would have certainly largely been in agreement that he was one, or certainly pinpointed as one who could go this window, who perhaps should go. And I think if this deal was kind of announced back then, people will go, it makes sense. It makes sense. It opens up space, potentially opens up space on the wage budget for someone to come in and replace someone. And that's big thing, was coming at the window that Hearts fans wanted to see striker additions, whether it was one or two. Already got one in Elton Kabangu, and then with Boyce opens another. It's just the timing is, I think, more than anything, the timing's not ideal, just because of Shanklin's injury and the fact that there's no, as kind of, until Boyce came back in, it was viewed there's not really another second striker as a potential to come in, and that's the case now. You're looking at going to Aberdeen on Sunday and potential of having like Danda or George Grant playing as a number 10. And I mean, there was murmurings, and it seemed, I remember hearing, it was back in November, December, about Boyce going back to Northern Ireland. He can go back and take his family, so I've got family across there, and kind of just go home, which is kind of ideal for him. And then when he got back into the team, it kind of just slipped to the back of my mind. I just didn't think it would then.
So it'd be like a push to the end of the season or something.
I thought maybe just because of what he's done the last 3 games, you just think, right, okay, maybe there is a space for him between now and the end of the campaign, where he's got him and Shanklin as that as those options, and then just for it to kind of transpire that he's now nearing an exit just as he got back into the team and was kind of played his way back into the team and played his way in back into kind of like in favour for a lot of Hearts fans as well. So it was when news broke this morning, it wasn't a surprise. But yeah, it's ideally he would remain here until even Monday, play against Aberdeen, and then go, because then you've got a 2-week break between the Aberdeen game and then when we play Kilmarnock at home. And
how disrespectful to Brecon.
You know what I mean? So you still think there's it gives a wee bit of breathing space for Hearts to maybe.
No, you're totally right. You're right. Just bring in a
replacement
comment here. Oh, sorry, I thought you were done there.
No.
Doesn't this new Elton Boy from Belgium play striker? This is Ben Odlin that's saying this. I suppose this isn't to like sound like I'm arguing against. It's more to just clarify what we're talking about here. It's different types of forwards. I mean, in an ideal world, Shankland is fit and comes back in and plays there because Boyce is away. I think the murmurs from Critchley recently have been that he doesn't want to overdo it for Wilson. So that would suggest that he's not going to play 90 minutes at Pittodrie, whether that, or like he's not going to play 90 minutes in the next 2 games, say. Whether that means starting and coming off, or whether it in one and then being benched for the one after or whatever, I don't know. But to play both of them together would be back to the situation where we're more or less the 4-2-4 or the 4-4-2 without that sort of Boyce dropping in. I know we tried it with Shankland a little bit, but it's not really worked for Shankland. Maybe he comes back into the way the team are playing now and it works for him, who knows. But I suppose that Elton Kabangu isn't a direct replacement for Boyce. It's like we would still need a sort of a bigger guy. I don't know. You know what I mean? Somebody who can take it in.
I mean,
and
I just
drop into clever positions and.
Yeah, I think there needs to be more versatility in attack. I'll chuck Musa into it as well. I put Wilson, Kabangu, and Musa all in the kind of same style. And is that they like to stretch teams. They like to run in behind and they'll make runs rather than dropping in and being that link and helping up with helping build and replace. So you need a balance. You need a balance in there in attack, and that's when you compare it to with Kabangu, Wilson, and Musa. That's what Shankland and that's what Boyce does as well. So yeah, it's for much of the season it makes sense. It's just more than anything, my only concern really is the timing of it. But like a few guys have been, really few people have been saying in the comments, is that the suggestions that if he's been allowed to go, that Hearts have got someone lined up. As always with clubs, they'll always have plans in place for exits and potential targets. Targets lined up. So I've not heard of any names about potential replacements for Boyce, but I would certainly think that they definitely know that want to bring in a left-footed winger, and then there's scope to. I still think there needs to be another central attacking option, which I imagine Boyce's departure will open up for someone to come in.
Yes, I don't imagine he's on like a small wage either. And as you suggested, I mean, he could still hang about for the Aberdeen game, and then the work could be done after that for him to go. We don't actually know when it's going to happen. I suppose just to kind of reflect on his time recently, or this season, to be more specific. You said that fans wouldn't have really been bothered about this a few weeks ago. It did seem that his race was kind of run at Tynecastle, wasn't it? I mean, this has been a little bit of a pleasant surprise these last few matches, because, and it can't be easy. I mean, in hindsight, it can't be easy just getting chucked on when teams chasing a goal in a poor run of form, and then you're expected that's all you're judged on. You don't get to start a game. I mean, and what would I be right in saying that? Would it be Pilsen or Falkirk would be his last start? So yeah, we were at the stage where just a few short weeks ago, where everybody was pretty much of the opinion that Boyce, even the head coach, it seemed, was of the opinion that it was just a matter of time before Boyce was away.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to see, obviously, if Shankland had stayed fit going up to Ross County. I can't imagine Boyce starts that game, and then it's a completely the dynamic of it and this of us discussing it completely changes if Shanklin had stayed fit and whether he continued to play. But yeah, it's his last. I think he started back-to-back games against Falkirk, then Pilsen, started in August, and there was frustration around him. It seems like at one point he just kind of stopped being clinical, because you look at it and when he first signed, it was a great signing, and on paper done well at Burton, had 2 fantastic seasons at Ross County, and then he had that goal scoring instinct. I thought he was going to be the first Hearts player to reach 20 goals since Robbo, but he hit 16 in the championship season. Then if it was a full season, he would have hit 20, and then 16 the season after to help Hearts finish third and get into Europe, which ended up bringing Conference League group stage football. But then it's that kind of clinical, kind of just killer instinct kind of departed them towards the last couple of seasons. Don't know if it was a confidence issue or what, but it was always one where he'd get in a really good position and then he would kind of check back. We talked about it earlier, and he's came in, he's missed a few chances. But I do feel sympathy for him in that he's obviously missed a fair bit of football the last couple of seasons due to injury, and then he's come in this season, and when he's had to play off the bench, I think he's found it hard to get a rhythm. And then we've seen it the last 3 games that had a good foil in James Wilson. They link well together, and yeah, he's been good. And if anything, it's nice for him to kind of end his Hearts career the kind of way he started. And I think it was one of his first games he scored against Rangers, but like in a positive fashion.
His debut.
Maybe, yeah. There you go.
It was. I'm pretty sure it was. And he wasn't fit, which is kind of like a precursor for a lot of his time at Hearts. I know that Hearts got a lot of good stretches of him when he was fit, but he was definitely a player who was prone to picking up the odd injury. You mentioned there, one of the things that I had said earlier was that despite Hearts improving in recent weeks and him being a part of that, he's still not been great. He's still not been... Well, he has been... I don't know, what is it I'm trying to say here? There's still things there that you see, he's limited. He's still lacking... He's clearly lacking pace. That he falls over every now and again. He's, as you said, he's lost a bit of prolificness. You've seen that. He didn't hit the target with either the header he has in the first minute in the last game at Tynecastle. Who's it we're playing again? I was talking about this earlier and I couldn't remember who we were playing. Motherwell, of course. And then in the second half, he has a tap in at the front post, which he doesn't get on target either. And so I think that, yes, the short term, which is this game against Aberdeen, it'd be ideal if he was still available. I think when you take everything into account, his minutes over the season, even his performances recently, the wages he's probably on, if an offer comes in, it really makes sense, because then it's possible to do more in January that's not just a sticking plaster, I think.
Yeah, it's possible. It's able to make, I think, the team, especially in the final third, the team needs to be more dynamic. I think that's my view. It needs to be quicker and more dynamic, and
that's what I mean. It could be. Yeah. It makes it more likely that it could be a signing now rather than a loan until the end of the season, just as a sort of sticking plaster thing, because there's more wages freed up there. You kind of alluded to it earlier, but there's no names on these, but we do expect the club, to be looking to add another central defender. And as you said, you didn't mention that bit, but what you said earlier, talking specifically about the attack, was they're looking for a left-sided winger as well. Maybe not left-sided, but left-footed winger.
Yeah, I mean, there's I don't think there's been much progress in here. I know that there's certainly interest in a centre back. Whether that deal gets done, we need to wait and see. But certainly the plan was coming in with, especially the injuries to Kingsley and Ken, and the expectation that Rowles could leave. the expectation was to bring in 2 centre-backs, and obviously Lewis Nielsen's came back from St Johnstone on loan, and it'll be interesting to see if he's still at the club beyond the January window. I suppose that could depend on how the January window goes. And then, the left-footed winger, that's just you. I mean, it makes sense. You talked about it. The team are not very left. They've not got many left footers.
It didn't even click with me until I was watching the mashup of Kabangu's goals. It wasn't until then I was like, "Oh, he's left-footed," and then it was like I thought to myself, "I've seen James Wilson finish with his left a few times, but I think he's right-footed." And there's nobody else in the attack that's left-footed.
Yeah, and so that makes sense. And then you just look at the way kind of Hearts play as well, that we've been playing is don't have a lot of it's the attacking players are in the wide areas are kind of out to in, like Spittle coming in and then opens up the space for the fullbacks. So again, having someone that's can play either side, can go down the side or come in was huge. Kind of huge benefit. And then just trying to think. Yeah, we talked about Boyce replacement, and Barry Anderson, he wrote today that there was talk about a creative midfielder, and again that could be a number 10 like Liam Boyce, and that could be the replacement. But again, wait and see. So those are certainly the 3 priorities, I would imagine. I'd imagine. I hazard a very, very good educated guess at.
One name that's been thrown around a little bit in recent days is Declan Frith, who is a left-footed English winger, who's playing in Switzerland at the moment with FC Thun. But you believe that there's nothing in that one?
Yeah, it's a name. The first time I heard that name was when Tom and I were doing a video on Kabangu, and then it kind of grew arm's length. Seen a lot on social media or something. Checked out. Don't believe like Hearts have any interest in him. Believe that there's interest from the English Championship, but he is a player who the imagine would cost a decent amount just because. Signed a long-term deal, just joined in the summer. He's their best player. He's their most important player. He's their top goal scorer, and they're top of the league and looking to return to the Swiss top flight for the first time since 2020. So, he looked really exciting. But I don't believe there's anything in that from a Hearts perspective. I don't know if people went 2 and 2 together because he crossed paths with Critchley. But don't believe that's a goer.
Yeah, did you see there was a Wraith fan on Twitter? I don't know if it was today or yesterday that the tweet actually got posted, but they decided privately a week or 2 ago to see if they could get a transfer rumour out there, and they did. They managed it. They pretended that they heard from a good source that Alex Grieve was going to be signing for Wraith Rovers.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
It got picked up and, as you say, bandied about. They wanted to expose those accounts that pretend to be those transfer accounts that pretend to be in the know. It was all about kind of exposing them. It's a good read. I would Blair H or something as the username of the account. I can't quite remember the full handle, but more potential temporary outgoings. You mentioned Lewis Nielsen could go before the end of the window. A lot of that will depend on who Hearts sign, and if they sign defensive cover. But Macaulay Tait, I think it'd be fair to say that this one's maybe long overdue for Macaulay Tait to go get regular first team football somewhere, be it Hearts or elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. You just look at it from what he did last season. He played 12 times, 14 times in the first team, and then this season he's featured twice. Once as a late sub against Dinamo Minsk, and then started against Petrokub, and he's played quite a bit for the B team at Lowland League, and that actually kind of ticked him over while he's been on the fringes of the first team. And I don't think that's hugely beneficial for him as playing Lowland League football. I think he's beyond that stage, like kind of talked about with Sandilands. He's kind of completed that, and he's gone from like kind of starting against Petrokub to being on the bench. To then not being in the squad, then being on the bench, and then George Grant coming back into the fold and playing in front of him. I just think with Grant coming in, and then you've got Benny, you've got Malachi Boateng, you've got Cammy Devlin, and then you got Callum Munoz, who should be back soon. Again, we'll get another update on him tomorrow. But then, so it's how many? Grant, Devlin, Boateng. So it's essentially six centre midfielders for two positions. And I think Tait's at the stage where I think just needs first team football. He had an opportunity early on in the season, I think, to go out on loan, kind of bide his. I think he decided to bide his time at Hearts. But yeah, I think the time has come for a loan move. I think there's interest from Championship clubs as well. So that would be, I think that would be a good move for him between now and the end of the summer. And then I would imagine there'll be kind of reevaluated in the summer when there's a bit more time and space for critics from the club to analyse a squad and look at it and see what the dynamic is and across various positions. So yeah, I think that's one that should get done between now and the end of the window. Just where he goes, it's not too sure.
I don't know if you mentioned it, but did you say Championship? You reckon it'll be the Championship, though? Sorry if I'm just getting you to repeat something you've already said. Yes, and we Callum Sandilands, you mentioned him. He has gone to Montrose and made his debut right away. I actually didn't realise they were on a wee bit of a tough run of form, but Montrose do that. Montrose go on runs, and then if you look back over the league seasons in that league, they finish fourth just about every season. It's honestly, they find they no matter what they do throughout the course of the season, they just find that level. They just find that in the playoffs level. But yeah, I noticed that he'd Fatma had it down as a 4-3-3 and him on the left side of the midfield. I'm not sure how accurate that was.
He was, so in reality, he was midfield three. He was on the right of the midfield three. So, and he was playing alongside like a really experienced guy like Terry Masson. And they've got, the thing about Montrose, they've got some really experienced individuals. They've got a brilliant manager, a good setup. And like you said, they're always competitive and always pushing. So it's proper kind of, he's going in there having to perform and to win. I think he got on okay and really enjoyed it. So I think it was a good move for him to experience first team football. And Montrose have done well with some loan players over the time, like Lyle Cameron, for example. He went there and then went back to Dundee and done really well.
Ross Sinclair had I know he's not having the best season, but I think that's maybe like mismanagement at St Johnstone rather than anything to do with young goalkeeper Ross Sinclair. But he had a very successful loan spell there as well. And there's a couple others that
Miller Thompson as well,
Yeah, you're right. He played like a number of different positions from. Yeah, they've got a bit of a track record of taking young loan players and playing them and developing them a wee bit.
I think so. Just on it, I think that's something that Graham Jones came in and kind of focused on, is making sure that the players get the right loans. So I think a lot of these things will come into consideration.
Yeah. Definitely. Let's go to some comments before we finish off. Kind of been favouriting a few. So here we go. He's a recent subscriber, Chris White, and I've got another one that's kind of related. Who will play in the number 10 role when Boyce leaves? So let's assume that Boyce is going to be away or unavailable. At the least, and that Shanklin's going to be fit. He's asking if Danda's going to be a possibility. Somebody else mentions Danda. Now I know that he is Innes Morrison suggests him, saying a run of games playing number 10, which is his actual position. Now I know that's going to be really, the mention of Jan Danda is just the mere mention of him is going to annoy some people. But is that even an option? He played quite well in the last game in Pittodrie on the left, if I remember correctly, and not until James Penrice came on for Stephen Kingsley. But that was out of his position. He was kind of making noises a few weeks ago about, maybe he didn't say it in these words, but kind of like read as if he wanted to play in his natural position. Now Hearts are playing with a number 10. Is that even a goer?
Yeah, I would think so. It's I'm looking forward to the press conference tomorrow. Hopefully get a better idea. That as I would imagine, gut feeling is that Boyce won't be involved, and that opens opportunity for him. And Danda has had has had the past relationship with Critchley, and when he did play for Critchley, I think he was a wide player that kind of cut in. But as you've seen through Ross County, that's where he played. That's his position, and he's actually not had. I need to look back, but I would imagine it's fewer than 90 minutes playing as a number 10, and then it's which is his preferred position. So I think that a lot of people kind of written him off, and I get that, just because I don't think his performances have been great, or there's been a lack of consistency or a lack of impact off the bench. We've talked about it before. He's started very few games, so that's an opportunity for him. But then you look at what Critchley has done the last couple of games, and he's just naturally moved Grant when he's making changes. He's moved Grant to the number 10, position. And my reservation would be playing a midfield three that had both Grant and Danda in it, as one's a number 6 and one's a number 10, but an 8 or a 10, whatever you want to call it. I think that's ideal if you're at home and you're dominating possession. I just think it's with Aberdeen, I think it's one of those games where you need to almost earn the right to play. They're not going to let you play, and you need to win your battle. So yeah, I would imagine it would be one of the two of them. I would like to see I would like to see Danda in the number 10 role, and just get a better idea of him as a Hearts player in that position. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the starting 11 against. Or intrigued to see it, and I would imagine very likely it would be one of the two.
I think probably. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say Danda's the more creative of the two, I think.
Yeah, I think you kind of just to kind of agree with a few things you said, and to give my view on it. I think that he will push Grant on. I think everything else being equal, he would probably want to keep Grant in the position he's played well in for the last couple of games. But I think if Boyce is unavailable, I think it will be Grant that will be pushed on. I don't know, unless Shanklin's made some sort of recovery or something like that. But
I doubt it.
I think that I just think he will more likely. It will be more of a battle in the midfield as well, and I think he will be. Like you say, it won't be, say, Devlin, Grant, and Danda. It's more likely going to be Devlin, Boateng, and Grant, or something along those lines. Another one here, I'm not sure if we approve of this profile picture or not, from Ryan Murray, but with Rowles and Salazar going and Kingsley injured, is there any idea if a left back will come in? Now, we kind of asked about this, and the reading between the lines of the answer, it was no. I think if it's not a priority, but maybe if something comes up, they will do some business. But it sounded like they have a plan for Gerald Taylor when he returns, don't they, Joe?
Yeah, that's it. I think we talked about earlier about the priorities: centre back, left foot winger, and central attacking player. And beyond that, I think, like you said, if there's something occurs, that would be that the club are keen on, then they'll do. But when you ask Critchley spoke about, he mentioned Rowles when Rowles was going.
I know. I think everybody knew at that point that Rowles was going to be going soon. I think it got announced, or it got broken in the media an hour later or something like that. But it was kind of common knowledge that Rowles was going, and he's talking about using him as a left back.
But yeah, we talked about potentially Gerald Taylor going there just to fill a gap, and then Ethan Drysdale as well. Again, that's probably maybe a longer term, just because he has only just returned from injury. He was meant to be playing for the B. He's making his third appearance for the B team this season last Friday, but that got postponed. They've got another home game tomorrow night. Unfortunately, the weather's not changed, but hopefully that's on, and then he can get some game time. So yeah, to answer the question, at the moment, I don't think left back is a priority, and just hope James Penrice stays fit.
I know. Every time he goes down, even with it happened once at Tynecastle as well, because he gets stuck in and he does get the odd knock, and there is some times where you're like, we cannot lose him. This is one that you highlighted. Murray McD says teams looking at Musa?
Yeah, just because it was a report from Not the Old Firm that teams
I missed
in
that.
teams in English Championship are monitoring Musa drama. The only thing, I don't know if that is the case. The only thing I would add to that is when Hearts signed him, that he was there was interest from England, and Critchley mentioned, I can't remember when he did it, when he said this, but he mentioned that Musa was familiar to him when he got the job at Hearts because he was someone that was put to Critchley when he was Blackpool manager in the summer. So he had watched a bit of Musa before this summer before he signed for Hearts. So yeah, there's definitely there definitely has been interest or clubs aware of him in England. Whether that's continued to this window, I'm not too sure.
Just another couple of quick ones before we get out of here. Kyle Anderson, any update on Oda? Think he deserves a run in the team. Now, again, we asked Critchley recently. The same kind of things been said about Oda recently, that he's just on the outside looking in, like other players like Barry Mackay, like Liam Boyce was at one point, like Craig Halkett was at one point, like George Grant was at one point. I would be less optimistic that Oda is going to get a chance. I think he would have by now if he was going to get a run in the team under Critchley. I don't know what you think about that, but I just think that given his pace and that's something that Hearts have lacked, I just think that he would have been given more chances by now if
It's a really interesting one because when he came back or when he was on the verge of coming back, Critchley spoke really positive about him. And
yes,
I've raised my reservations or my frustrations with Oda because I think there is a really threatening winger in there. It's just that inconsistency or the kind of decision making on the ball, etc., etc. I was intrigued and interested, excited to see what he could do under Critchley. He came on in Copenhagen, I think. He's been on the bench a couple of times and then he's not been in. I don't know if it's kind of like a kind of in and out and just almost like a challenge to see how you can respond in training. The difference between him and like Grant and Boyce and Barry Mackay is that he's got a longer contract. So there's it would have to likely be either a loan or someone coming in and taking him off as a transfer. It's just we've talked about the right hand side of the team, and there's been like Alan Forrest, has been on the frustration. He's been on the end of frustration from the home crowd. So yeah, it's an unusual one. I would be reluctant to say there's like no way back. I wouldn't be surprised if, I think Critchley mentioned this week that he'd no doubt that like the Barry Mackay's agent and Yutaro Oda's agent are out there looking at potential options for them because they're not getting the game time. But I would say that I wouldn't rule out Oda potentially making a comeback like the way that Grant has or the way like Boyce has.
Apparently, the last time I said that I liked Brian Murray's profile picture, he's telling us, so I'm nothing if not inconsistent. Should we be offering George Grant a new contract? Do we think he will be offered a new contract? Asked Chris White. My personal opinion, I mean, I don't know, but my personal opinion is that it might depend on what happens between him at the end of the season, how he performs and how many minutes he gets between the end of the season, because again, he was another one that looked like a few weeks ago that he was kind of almost out the door, had one foot out the door. And it could even be the case that, like Boyce, he's already been making plans behind the scenes. And because, I mean, these people have personal lives to sort out and all that kind of stuff as well. And I think the Boyce thing is as much about sorting out his personal life as it is about sorting out his footballing future. So, yeah, that could be the case as well, that Grant has already made that decision. Or the club have.
In terms of Grant, I just look at the direction the club are going and the opportunities for the club to have kind of mentioned it earlier on to almost reset this summer. I just don't see Grant as a long-term future. I think I think between now and the end of the season, absolutely, he's got a part to play. But I think the summer brings a natural ending point to the relationship between Grant and Hearts. I mean, lots can happen in the next 3, 4, 5 months, but I just think it's a natural end point for Grant to move on, for Hearts to use wages elsewhere, to, like I said, get younger, get more dynamic, and that allows that to happen.
Ricky Graham asked about the goalkeeper situation, whether there's an update. The last update we got was somebody asked Craig Gordon, and he just said now's not the time. He's more just focused on getting Hearts out of the mess that we're in. And then we'll finish off. Here's an easy one for you. How do we get the best out of Vargas? Thought he was good in spells last year.
He was excellent last year.
He kind of hinted himself recently. That's from Reggie M, by the way. He kind of hinted himself recently that he is an object of exchange, and it could very well happen this month. So I wouldn't be surprised if the best answer to that, from the club's perspective at the moment, is to try and get some money for him and either make a bit of money or recoup some of the money, because going on recent evidence, and again with the caveat that we've seen players turn it around in a short space of time, and Vargas definitely has the ability to do it. He's just not doing it, and his appearances at the moment, even when he's coming on with the team are performing relatively well or on a bit of a high, he was still guilty of not being productive enough on the break for that chance at Tannadice recently. So I'm not sure. I think Critchley's tried and not been able to, but I don't know. He's another one who I just kind of, I don't know if worry is the right word, but I don't know how much of a future he has left at Hearts.
I am hoarder. I'm a hoarder. I'm a sentimental. I'm not sure how this would best describe my feelings. But for example, Barry Mackay, I still cling on to the hope that he comes back and has a great last 3, 4, 5 months of his Hearts career before potentially moving on. And then with Vargas, I thought he had a really good season last season for being. He had to be overplayed essentially, and for coming and adapting to the league. I just thought he made that jump really well, and I thought this season was going to be his next step, and I thought he was going to be one of the key men and go from scoring 9 goals to maybe 15, 16, 17. Oh, it's been a huge disappointment, I think, for all parties. It's been frustrating. I know a lot of people in the comments are just like, sell him. I always cling on to that positivity and hope. So yeah, I think if he remains in the Hearts in January, I think it's going to be a big 4 or 5 months from. And then you look at bringing in Kabangu and then Wilson as well. So he's kind of dropped down the pecking order. Certainly central in the central area was probably best. So yeah, again, another player that's got in a very interesting few months coming up.
Someone has asked about Shankland, David, whether he's in the same boat. We are not going to get into that. It's a whole podcast within itself. Can
I just bring on one comment and just
of course,
last one before we finish up. Craig Rankin on Facebook asked, do Jamestown deal assist with re-signing players? Would Grant even be a player that would be on the radar if he weren't at Hearts? So in terms of like that kind of first one, in terms of do Jamestown deal assist with signing players, their analytics isn't just about signing players, it's about players who are also at the club. They'll look at data from games. Jamestown also help analyse opposition and analyse how you're performing yourself individually and collectively. So yeah, Jamestown will be able to bring insight and data and that kind of all that information when it comes to dealing with players who maybe Hearts think should extend their deal or should be looking to move on, etc., etc. So yeah, they'll be involved in that.
There's a good book by Simon Cooper called Soccernomics, which has got a chapter or two that deals with something related to that. It kind of, and the belief is, or the numbers suggest that a lot of the time it's better financially to improve the players that you've got rather than constantly bring in new players. I mean, clearly that has got to be relative to ability, and in some way there's some players that you're just not going to improve or not going to improve to the required level and things like that. But it's interesting. It kind of breaks it down and makes the argument that a lot of the time it's, like clubs are so wasteful, and it's they could be just like managing their resources better and improving what they've got a lot more of the time. But yes, again, that's another subject that we go deep into on just a podcast in itself. Thank you very much, Joe. We will leave it there. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks for your comments and sorry for the ones that we didn't get to. Yet again, we got quite a few in there.
We're planning for doing this for 20 minutes and we've done it with 40. So yeah,
I know that's probably my fault. That's probably my fault. I've been in control.
There was plenty of good stuff in there.
Yes, please check everything out at heartstandard.co.uk. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Thank you to everybody who already has, and we will speak to you all again soon.